And we're back with another episode of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale. I'm Don Henniger, and joining me, as always, is my podcast partner and legend in the making.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
Kevin Maxwell.
I thought you were going to say something about the restaurant business, but...
No, I got a legend in the making. You know why I'm saying that.
Yeah, well, that's because
we got a legend in the room today.
This has been a long time coming.
We're looking forward to this one for a long time. Don Carson, just say his name, and most everybody in Scottsdale knows who you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
A Scottsdale institution. Welcome, Don.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really and truly, I'm excited about being here.
Well, we're great to have you. Just a little bit of background for some people who may not know, because we got new people watching our podcast all the time, new to the city. So Don came here from Chicago, I don't know, back in the 80s or 70s?
Well, I opened the restaurant in 81.
81.
But my dad bought the property in 1959.
1959.
And opened a restaurant, and he did not, it was successful for a couple of years, but he was not, the summers he couldn't take, and he also got valley fever, so we moved back to Chicago. Well, I went to ASU and matriculated.
There you go. That's what happens to a lot of people around here, right?
Yeah.
You made a big imprint, though, when you came back and started things up and running. You soon opened up a famous trio of restaurants, the Pink Pony. Mm-hmm. Remember the Pink Pony? The Italian Grotto, and, of course, Don and Charlie's. And all three...
Wait, no, the Pink Pony was Charlie Briley.
Charlie, okay.
And the Grotto was Gary, and I can't think of his last name. I had nothing.
Yeah, I had you with all three of those.
No. I was. They were here when I came.
Okay.
And truthfully, when I came out I came out on a vacation, and I thought that there was a hole in the market for what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So,
well, the big one we want to talk about is Don and Charlie's.
Of course, yeah.
Of course.
That's the big one, right? So and you bought that in 1981, or got that going in 1981?
Opened it in 81, but don't forget, I was a two-year overnight success.
Well, it became one of the most iconic institutions in Scottsdale's history.
They're still talking about today.
Still talking about it. Closed in 2019, and so we still miss it today. Kevin, you and I talk about it all the time. So here's a silly question for you, Don. Do you miss it?
I miss it every day. I loved what I did. I always knew that there'd be issues, because it's a business. You have 100 people working, and everybody is, but I miss the people. I miss the staff I worked with, because they were wonderful. Because when you run a restaurant and you open at 5, after 5 o'clock, you don't mean anything. I mean, you're going to get an iced tea, you're going to get more barbecue sauce, because what you have to do is have them ready to hit the bell. When the bell rings, they got to be ready.
Yeah. Right. Well, they were ready all these years, man. That's right. Who's Charlie, by the way?
Charles I'm part of a national chain. We're Chicago based, but called Let Us Entertain You, and it's been around for over 50 years. And I've been a partner in Lettuce, for over 40 years.
Okay. Yeah. So take us through the early years. How did you get started, and what are some of your favorite memories? If you can list a couple, there's probably a ton of them. But
when in terms of this, because I had a life in Chicago too. I opened a restaurant, my partners in Chicago, in 1977.
Okay.
Were my two brothers, my sister, and my mother, and we opened a place called Carson's, and it proved to be quite successful and grew to a chain of 3 other places, and my brother still runs it. So I just wanted to kind of move out and be on my own.
Yeah.
But and we all know that restaurants have an 80% mortality rate.
Mm-hmm.
So
tough business, huh?
And when I came here in 81, there weren't 7 million people here. So the summer was the summer.
Yeah.
And it was tough going, and you had to really struggle, and the season wasn't even good for me, because nobody knew what I was doing. I had over 4,000 pieces of memorabilia on the wall when I closed, and when I opened up, I had nothing. The only thing I ever bought was a Babe Ruth ball, and certainly when I opened up...
Is that right? You bought one ball, all those balls you had.
Everything I had was and I couldn't forget by Babe Ruth's ball when I first opened up. I couldn't pay attention.
Is that right?
It was.
Well, I'm just going to recap, get some context for our listeners, because if they may not know, they never got to visit Don and Charlie's back in the old days. When you walked in the restaurant, there was baseball memorabilia all over the lobby and in the hallways. And as you said, 4,000 baseballs, and you had other stuff too.
It was a museum, basically.
Yeah,
it was basically a baseball museum.
Yeah.
And so it was just a wonderful place to go. And this is a spring training town, right? Obviously, back then, it still is today. But that's why Don and Charlie's really matched up really well with what was going on in Scottsdale at the time.
Yep. What was important to me was that there be a story behind everything. And if there's no story, we've all been in a bar in an airport or where we've gone in and they've got Wayne Gretzky's famous hockey shot where he's perpendicular to the ground.
Right.
Well, mine was signed. So everything I had, there was a story, and I'm not going to take you through almost 40 years, but Jerry Rice came in, and most people will know him as he spent all those years with the 49ers, and he came in and he walked around. He says, "You're the guy in the pictures," and I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, you don't have anything by me." And I said, "Well, I don't buy anything, Jerry." And he went out to his car and he came back with a picture and he signed it. And that's a story. I mean, I could go around the dining room and give you stories. It's a remarkable thing. And guess what? Somebody, Steve Carlton didn't want to sign anything. He came in and he's taking his son to school here, and he left. He says, "I really don't sign anything." I said, "Steve, look around. I got lots of balls."
Yeah.
So I'd love to have you as an addition. But and the thing that was always of paramount importance to me was everybody got their space.
Yeah.
You could not go get autographs. I wouldn't let anybody bother us if we were having dinner.
Right.
As just people that were coming in for dinner. So everybody and the players knew it, and that's one of the things why we were successful. Well, that and a cool place.
Were you able to keep the other restaurant guests away from them too, though, or how would you do that?
Absolutely.
How would you do that? Just tell them, don't bother them.
You've been in meetings with me. How direct am I?
pretty clear.
Yeah,
you're pretty
send a
clear.
message. Send a message.
Hey, listen. We'd have people come down from San Francisco. Or I'm just going to pick on San Francisco, and there'd be a party at 12. And they'd have 6 kids and they'd want to sit, dad's on one table and the kids, and they've got the balls out and they've got pens. And I'd say, "Gentlemen, I'm going to tell you something. This is not a nursery. And you're going to sit with your kids and you're going to enjoy it. And if you go to the park tomorrow at 11 o'clock, and the players are usually amenable to giving autographs, but you're not going to go to a table here. Well, what are you going to do if..." I said, "Well, you won't like that, but you won't be here."
Yeah.
Because this is what I do, and this is my living. And more importantly, the most important thing is everybody's entitled to have privacy when they come here.
So you accumulated all that stuff one ball at a time? Would you have like a bunch of backs of balls?
Well, I kept
your desk. All the time?
My desk. I'd have to do paperwork, but I had baseballs upstairs. I had boxing gloves upstairs. I had basketballs upstairs. I had footballs upstairs, and because you can't expect Wade Boggs to have a ball on him, so Wade Boggs come in. And I also had. When we'd have it, because in those days there was a National and American League, so there'd be American League ball and a National League ball. And believe it or not, somebody in the National League did not want to sign
an American League
really? Ball. So there are just nuances that you really don't think about till you get started.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So it was fun.
That's great.
So in 2019, you had that big theft, right? Like a whole bunch, $600,000, I think, worth of memorabilia.
It was 39 balls, and at that time, 17 or 19 were dead. I don't quite remember. They'd passed away.
Yeah.
And now we've lost Bob Gibson and a few other guys. And what really bothered me, guys, is that not everybody gets to Cooperstown.
Yeah.
And we had these 39 balls when you walked in, and people would take a picture and they'd say, wow, there's Ty Cobb. Wow, there's Willie Mays. Wow, there's Wade Boggs. Wow, there's George Kell. And it gave people an opportunity to be as close as we are together, taking a picture for remembrance. Mm-hmm. And that's what really bothered me, because you can't, you're not going to be able, and fortunately, well, not fortunately, but I've made a lot of relations in baseball, and they sent out a circular saying, with the names of the balls that were stolen, so that if anybody that came in and wanted to sell a ball, that they were on the list, so they wouldn't be able to sell it. But nothing happened. I think it was. I have no idea who did it. I really don't. But it's sad because it took happiness away from a lot of
Did
people.
you ever recover any of them?
Nothing. I think there was a collector that paid somebody to do it.
Oh no!
What percentage of all your memorabilia was that? You think?
Well, I had over 4,000.
So it was.
Well, it was substantial in that they're not making any more Roberto Clemente balls, and they're not making those anymore. Yeah. And but it just was not fair to people. The public. It wasn't fair. I mean, I would come in and look at them every day and say, wow, because I would remember when I got something signed and it was a big deal. And when you start out, nothing on the walls, it's and nothing on the walls, people say, this guy's going broke. But I remember when Chub Feeney came in with his wife, and Roger Angel, a famous baseball writer, came in with his wife, and Bill Rigney came in with his wife, and I went home and I told my wife, I said, I think we've turned the corner.
Okay.
Is that right?
I really do, because that was baseball royalty. If Roger Angel wrote many fine books, and he wrote for the New Yorker
he's a great writer.
Yeah. And then I started getting like George Will, and I would get Selig came in, and it just mushroomed where it became a spot.
Yeah.
And when something I'm not a braggart, but George Will came in all the time, and he came in. One time he was a party of 6, and I sat him, and he said, folks, take a look at this guy. In March, he said, the most important person in America. So, I mean, it was a joke, but
that's a good one.
It really was, I enjoyed every day.
I remember George Will writing about it and stuff from the Don and Charlie
He
days.
He gave us a write-up in Newsweek when they were doing Periscope at the beginning of the magazine, and he wrote about me, I believe in the USA Today. No, was he writing in the USA? I don't remember.
I don't think he wrote for USA.
No, he would
Washington
write
Post.
a column, Washington Post. Yeah. But he was. I mean, it was a wondrous time.
Yeah,
I mean,
for
it really
sure.
was.
Yeah.
And when you get to make a living and do what you like to do, that's the best part.
Yeah.
You mentioned before, restaurant business is a tough business. I mean, you look at restaurants today, margins are thin.
Oh, yeah.
It's seasonal. It fluctuates. You can. How did you? Obviously, you became an institution, so I mean, that really benefited you a lot. But how did you keep the business so successful all those years? What was the trick to all that?
I think it was. I had a staff that made me look good. And I'm not telling you they never needed supervision, but because I need supervision, and my door was always open. I was always willing to talk to whoever, and sometimes I always told them what it was going to be. I'd say, listen, we're in the restaurant business, and it's important that you understand that restaurants are open on holidays. The only holiday we were closed was Thanksgiving. But it's just what it is.
You remember Christmas?
Oh, yeah. We're in a resort town.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was in downtown Chicago, I would close all holidays
Yeah.
and unless the air show was there or something. But when you're in a resort town and the hotels their guests don't want to eat at the hotel every night,
Right.
we would do on Christmas Eve 550, 600 dinners, and on Christmas Day 650.
Wow.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy good, huh?
Crazy good for sure. Yeah.
Who was
Crazy
a lot of your staff with you for a long time?
Oh, yeah. I had people with me 30, 35 years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what makes you successful. Listen, we all go in a place where we feel comfortable. Yep. We generally speaking, I don't go to any CVS that I go to the same. I mean, people want to feel comfortable, and nothing makes them feel better than being able to come in and have a variety of servers that they're okay being waited on.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I talked to everybody. I did talk to everybody, and I would go to
It's like cheers, where everybody knows your name.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It's funny. I'm dating a lady, and I've been dating her a while, and she says, "I can't believe it. Everywhere we go." I mean, sometimes we'll get out of the car and somebody will say, "Hey, how are you, Don?" So it's just, but I've been doing it. I did it in Chicago, and I did it here, and to go to a Giant game or a Cub game during spring training or anywhere, I mean, it's.
You still making out some games?
Oh, heck yeah. I have Diamondback tickets, and I go to 25, 30 games a year.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Okay, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So running the business obviously is a testament also to your leadership. So when you look back at your leadership, who did you look to mentor you? Who were the leaders that you admired as you were getting your business running?
Well, I think I will give my father the credit for making me, putting me in a position where I would have to learn the front of the house and the back of the house. But my mentor is a gentleman by the name of Rich Melman, who founded Let Us Entertain You, and he really taught me the business side of it, and because let's face it, at the end of the day, you have to make a profit. So right. And the quality of the food was always very much on our plate. That we wanted to make sure that we wanted it to be the same all the time, and French fries at McDonald's, that's what really got them going. And if you can be mediocre, and people will say, well, it's mediocre, but let's go there after the movie.
Consistent.
Right? It's
right.
consistent.
Yeah.
It's consistently bad, but but we were consistent.
We got that going for us, man.
We were consistent. I'll tell you what, there was a guy that wrote for Phoenix Magazine, and he said in his review, he said, you know what, Don and Charlie's has the common ability to do common things uncommonly well, or something like that.
Okay.
And we were not. I guess the most exotic thing we ever served was frog legs, because my buddy Bob Euchre liked frog legs.
Bob Euchre,
he did.
Wow.
Yeah, he liked frog legs, but I think that you just have to not. People don't like surprises.
Yeah.
You're right.
And they want. Hey, if I'm cheery, and it makes the staff, the way you act is going to affect what they do.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm not telling you that I never, but when we opened up, they absolutely were 100% responsible for what happened after 5 o'clock. Now, it was my job to get the food ready and make sure that we had enough ribs and all that stuff. But and I never tried to put a burden on them where it was something that I didn't think they could help me with.
Yeah.
Just don't want to give them anything else to worry about.
Good leadership, man.
Who were some of the celebrities that would come in frequently that were not sports or athletes?
Oh, we had a lot. We had Biden used to come in. He had relatives in Tucson. Sea League was always a great customer.
Right.
We've had senators. Kyle used to come in once in a while. Goldwater was in when he was alive a few times. It was, and we'd get. I got to admit, sometimes I didn't know who the TV people were.
I'd have that problem today.
Yeah, I do too. I absolutely do.
I'd say, God, who is that person?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Ray Liotta came in.
Okay.
And he came in a few times, and he was staying at the Phoenician. And I went over to his table, and I knew his then wife, because she had been married to a friend of mine. And I said, nice to see you. Ray, nice to meet you. I love your movies. And he said, well, we love what you do. So it was even, but you don't want to be intrusive.
No.
I mean, sometimes everybody wants to go out and have a good time, and they really want their space.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the community for a couple minutes. Because
Okay.
you've been super active in the community. You're a leader in the community. You've been involved in just about every organization there is here. What do you think about the current state of Scottsdale today?
Okay. When I came back in '81, I went to Scottsdale High.
Did you really? You're a Beaver?
I'm a Beaver.
Is that right? Okay.
I hated the name Beaver, but
Yeah.
I was a Beaver. And Jed Nolan, who, do you remember he had that place, the stage show place in the Civic Center.
Oh, yeah.
And he knocked on the door, and he came in and he says, you got to get involved in the community. So he brought me down to the Little Red Schoolhouse, and that's how I got involved, and it just kind of snowballed. And I think that I've been asked before what my biggest contributions were, and I don't keep score. I really not that kind of guy, but I think that the MLK thing as a state and our reputation and was very damaging to our brand. We lost a Super Bowl. We lost hundreds of millions of dollars.
Remember? Yep.
And that was the year that I was president. So that being said, I was a spokesman.
President of the chamber?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was a spokesman, and we got it done. But it was a slog because it was just a tough thing to do. And the other thing that I'm really proud of is I was a lunch monitor at Our Lady of Perpetual Help for 13 years. But there were...
Top of the resume right there.
I wish... The thing that I wish, and I was thinking about it, and I think about it all the time, I go back to Herb's days, and there were always things that people didn't agree on.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that there always was civility. And we could go, whether it was Pishke's if it was a morning meeting, and we'd go there and have lunch, or we'd go to...
Remember Pishke's, boy, name of the past.
We'd go somewhere, and have a drink after the meeting, and there was no name calling. There was just... I think there was a little bit more common sense than there is now.
I have to agree with that.
And I think that we all have an opinion. And it's so difficult now. I think that we'd be better served if we could all take a step back and say that. I think it was Socrates that said everything within reason. And I'm probably paraphrasing. He said a lot of things, but I think that. I'd like to see. I'd like to see us just go back in the past, because it's kind of bleak.
Right now we're in a bleak time in terms of civility. There's no question about that, and it'd be nice just to get people talking together, come together on both sides of the aisle, and to start talking again.
Yeah, and it's and we've. In many instances, I don't necessarily think in this. I have not lost faith in local politics. Certainly, there's a lot of angst about the way that our politicians conduct themselves.
Yeah.
And there's really no room for the way people act now. There really isn't. And I don't have to not like you just because it just is a mystery to me how we got here.
It's a testament to you that you ran such an institution like the restaurant, which was so rooted in Scottsdale's culture, but you also felt it was important to be active in the community as a leader.
Absolutely.
Not everybody has that feeling. Not everybody does that.
Absolutely.
So how can we prompt maybe particularly younger people to start getting more active in our community and taking leadership roles?
It's interesting. I can't really get into what I'm doing right now. But I was always on the periphery. I was never wanted to run. First of all, I didn't have time to run for office, and a gentleman was. I did pull a packet one time.
Oh, you did?
I pulled a packet, and I would win. Mm-hmm. I would have won then for sure. Mm-hmm. And there was a councilman that we were having lunch, and he said, "Listen, I heard you pull the packet." And he said, 50% of the people are going to hate you, and the other 50 are going to like you, or maybe it's 55 like you and 45 hate you, and then the next week. And I decided that I thought I could be more effective just being on the sidelines, and I think that's worked well for me. I really do.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I don't. I try to be reasonable about self and have common sense. And there were things that we had in the 90s the early 90s. We had Martin Luther King, we had the Cactus League and the Flux, we had Rose working on it and Pat Patterson working on it, and we were working on it here in Scottsdale, and the Cubs were going to leave, they weren't going to leave, and there were just things happening that were very difficult to and really and truly it would take another show to there was just a lot of stuff going on.
We probably will need to do a different show.
Yeah. There's I'm not saying I'm not.
You just opened the door, man. So look out. Be careful what you ask for.
It was, and it seems to me, and this is not an indictment of. Distinctly, I remember saying when they told me on the executive committee that I was going to be president of the chamber, I said, you know what, I don't. Kevin wants it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was okay with you. I mean, obviously it weren't you. You weren't probably even born yet. So, but I wasn't going to stop doing what I was doing.
Yeah. But
I didn't need that. I wasn't. And I think in many instances now people want a prize and they're successful in what they do, and they want to make a splash, and they want to make a big splash, and they want it to be historic. Well, guess what? 90% of the time it's a belly flop.
Yeah, exactly right.
And I don't know, and I think that I've always had people around me that would bring me back to earth. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would be having a meeting at the restaurant, and I'd say, "We're going to do this tomorrow," and can't we change your mind? No, you're not just changing my mind. We're doing it tomorrow. And I'd come in and I'd say, "Guess what? I changed my mind."
Yeah, right.
So if you can't and you can't be stuck in just doing something, it's got to be right for it. Again, all the time I've been in the city, one issue people drive me crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of that right now.
And we have a one issue, and all they want, and there were so many, I mean, it was crazy. My wife just would be crazy. Where are you going now? But it would seem to me that we'd see a person, and then as soon as they got that stop sign, we never saw them again.
Yeah.
And everybody's got ideas, and some are good and some are bad, and we have to keep looking for people that aren't doing it. They're doing it for the community.
Before we wrap up, I got to get one more. I'm gonna pivot here a little bit. I got to get another good baseball story out of you. Tell me about your friend Harry Carey.
Oh my God, Harry was. I can't tell that. I can't.
Sure you can.
No,
sure you
I
can.
can't.
This is not rated at all here.
No.
He was a fun guy, though, right?
He was a wonderful guy. I really and truly, it's. I'll tell you what. I will tell you this story.
All right.
How much time do we have?
You got as much time as you want.
Okay. So Harry died. He was a good friend. He ate at the restaurant every night in spring training. He was the Cal Ripken of
Is that right? He said every night?
Every night.
In March?
Every night in March. 6. And we both, all three of us know what Harry looked like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a solid guy in that when we were just starting out, he would talk about me on TV and the restaurant and, hey, it's summertime in Don and Charlie's. I bet there's nobody there. But anyway,
when he was on the radio in Chicago, he'd say that.
Yeah. He passes away, and I called up a friend of mine. I'm not going to tell you who that is. But I said, we got to go to Palm Springs. He was going to have a funeral in Chicago, too. And he says, well, I don't want to go. I said, well, we got to go because I'd rather drive to Palm Springs than go to Chicago. It's just easier. It's a drive. Well, I forget the time change, and we're going to get there right about when it's going to start. So ESPN is on. We're an hour early. ESPN is on him right away, and he's so mad at me. So now we go in the church, and the Catholic churches, St. Barnabas doesn't have it, but the Catholic Church has the main, and then they've got two things like that. He says, we're going over here because nobody will see us. I don't want to talk to one other person. So Harry's in his coffin, and so we're not looking at the casket this way. We're looking at it as the front, as a on the side, so it's just a straight casket.
Yeah.
And Ernie Banks comes in, Ron Santo comes in, the manager of the Cubs comes in. I mean, the place was packed. So we're talking back and forth, and they haven't started it yet. And it starts, and now my friend says to me, Harry's not in the casket. I said, why? He says, because it's too small. It's too small. The casket. And we're arguing back and forth. And
so it's closed, obviously.
It's the casket's closed, but we're looking at it as a long, skinny thing.
Yeah.
And we're going back and forth, and people are looking around. These guys are, where is this coming from? And we're the only two people. The church is packed. So we argue back and forth, and I said, he's in there. No. He says, well, I'm going to tell you what. He's not in there. That's his glasses in there. Which we know he had those big horn-rimmed glasses. Right. Harry was just...
That's crazy. We could talk forever, Kevin. You know,
we're going to have him on again. We're going to have Mr. Carson on again.
Well, you know, this will be one of our repeats. We'll have to put that on the calendar.
What did you call me, Mr. Carson?
Yeah.
Oh, please.
That hurt, didn't it? Yeah.
Mr. Carson. I had fun, and I think that, and this is just a suggestion, I think that to understand the history of Scottsdale is important, because I don't think a lot of people know the history of Scottsdale. And I'm not saying I'm a soothsayer or anything, but it's important that the younger people know it, and especially the people that are now involved.
Mm-hmm.
And we could have lost spring training.
I remember.
And it was a serious threat. And I don't think it'd be a bad idea for people to understand that. You were at a meeting you and I were at, and I don't think that 80% of the people really understood what I was talking about.
Yeah.
That's why this conversation was so good today. Just
That's
to get a blast of the past.
That's why I recognized right then. I'm like, we have to have Mr. Carson on the
question.
podcast. So.
Don is fine. I won't call me back if you're going to call me Mr.
There you go.
Hey, you can call me King of Ribs.
Yeah,
Or
all
right.
KOR for short.
We got it.
I'm going to change my address book in my phone right now.
There you go. Great conversation today, Don. Great to catch up with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Glad to have you on.
I hope I wasn't.
No, this is fantastic.
This is a great community, and we need to work on the civility that is required to be successful.
Amen to that one for sure. But and we'll start working on that going forward. That's for sure.
That's right.
Yep. Don, thanks. Great catching up with you.
Thank you.
And thanks to everybody for listening. And I hope you'll continue to share our podcast with your friends and your neighbors and anybody else you can think of.
Hit that subscribe button.
We'll see you next time, man. Hit the subscribe button on Today and
That's
Tomorrow.
Casey, right?
That's Casey.
Casey, and I thank Casey for. Do I look good, Casey?
Casey makes everybody.
Can you tell
look
I
good.
shaved today?
All right. We'll see you next time for the next edition of Today and Tomorrow in Scottsdale.